Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Packers 101. And today we're going to be going through the NFC North, and I'm going to be giving my predictions as to how I think the NFC North will finish at the end of the season. Now, I'm probably going to do this for each division before the NFL regular season starts because we've officially hit the preseason, so it's time to make predictions on how it's going to finish already. So we're going to go from last to first in the NFC North. And at number four, I have the Minnesota Vikings. This might surprise some people, but hear me out. Vikings on offense are solid. Kirk Cousins, he's an okay quarterback. Not great, but not terrible. They lost Dalvin Cook. That's going to hurt a lot. Even though I like Antonio Madison as the backup, I don't have as much confidence in him as I have in Dalvin Cook, obviously. Wide receiver one, Justin Jefferson. He's pretty good. And after that, it's pretty wide open at wide receiver two. It might be Jordan Addison. It might be KJ Osborne. We really don't know right now, so we'll have to see how that plays out. But I expect the Vikings offense to be pretty good still. But their defense is where I have a lot of concerns. Pass rusher, they have Daniil Hunter. That's about it in terms of players of significance, along with Harrison Smith. They also signed Jordan Hicks. I mean, he's pretty good, but he's not nearly as good as Eric Kendricks, in my opinion, who they lost. They also lost Zadarius Smith. They lost Pat Pete. They lost so many pieces on that defense. D tackle Dalvin Tomlinson, and it was already struggling even before they losing all those players. Last year, the Vikings defense was not good. Somehow the Packers put up 40 points on them, and the Packers offense last year, it was not that good. I will be the first to admit it. It wasn't as good as years past. So with all those losses, I definitely see the Vikings finishing last. They did just hire Brian Flores as the defensive coordinator, though, so that's a step in the right direction, but I don't think that's enough to salvage that defensive roster. So number three and two are pretty interchangeable for me, but I'm a little biased. So I'm gonna say that number three is gonna be the Chicago Bears. And with the Bears, there's potential to move up. Justin Fields, even though statistically it wasn't that impressive of a season last year, he still had a good year for what he had around him. He had Darnell Mooney at wide receiver, who was hurt a decent part of the year. Cole Kmet at tight end, and that was pretty much it. They traded for Chase Claypool, but he was not very good. Let's be honest. Chase Claypool was not that good for Chicago last year. And the Bears O line, my God, it was so bad. Justin Fields was sacked more than any QB in the league last year at 55 times. The Bears went in the draft and they got a good O lineman in the first round, and they've built a more solid roster around him. Trading for DJ Moore, that's a legitimate wide receiver one. That's going to do good. Now, where I do have some concerns for the Bears is on their defense. Yes, they signed Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards. I don't think that's going to be enough to fix how bad that defense was last year. Because it was even worse than the Vikings last year. The Bears' defense was probably close to dead last, if not dead last. So while I definitely see the defense being better than it was last year, I still think that's a big concern for the Chicago Bears. So for that reason, I have them finishing at three. And at number two, we got my favorite team, the green and gold Green Bay Packers. So I could definitely see an argument for flipping the Bears or the Packers here just because Fields has more playing experience, and I understand that. But where the difference between the Bears and the Packers gets more apparent, in my opinion, is with the defense. Now, I know Joe Barry, a lot of question marks as a coordinator, but the talent on the Green Bay defense, there's a lot of it there. Jair Alexander, a great CB1, one of the best cornerbacks in the league, in my opinion. Quay Walker, even though he got ejected a lot, he had a solid rookie season last year outside of the dumb penalties. Devondre Campbell, great inside linebacker. Rashawn Gary, great edge rusher. He can get a lot of pressure whenever he wants. Kenny Clark, he obviously knows how to get it done. Devontae Wyatt, the rookie we also drafted last year, even though he got limited snaps, he looked good in the snaps that he had. Very much a Kenny Clark type player. The only concerns for the Green Bay defense that I have are on the back end at safety because we lost Amos, and Amos was a really good player, so he'll be missed. But there's talent on all three levels of the Green Bay defense, whereas I don't see that same talent on the Chicago defense. So just from a defensive edge, I would give it to the Packers. And offensively, I do think the Packers will be better than they were last year because last year they were not good on offense at all. They stalled a lot. Yes, they had their moments, but it looked like a very stale offense. I think Love coming in is going to give some rejuvenation. Now, I'm not saying that Jordan Love is better than Aaron Rodgers already. That's not the case. It probably will never be the case because Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest of all time. But I do think that in a system more designed for Love, that offense is going to look good. If they utilize Jones and Dillon more, the only question mark for me about that offense is how good the wide receiver talent's going to be. Christian Watson showed a lot of potential, as did Romeo Doubs. Is that going to be enough for Jordan Love to have, a playoff type season, which remains to be seen. But I have the Packers finishing it too. And at number one, we got the Detroit Lions. And I think that this is a pretty undisputed pick from anybody that knows the NFC North. The Lions finish out last season very good, winning like 8 of their last 9 games or something crazy like that. Dan Campbell, great coach. Offensively, great O-line. Probably one of the best O-lines in the league. At Penei Sewell at tackle, he's hard to get by. And they got weapons. They got Amon-Ra St. Brown. They signed David Montgomery. They gave away they didn't give away, but they lost Jamal Williams. That's going to be a big loss for the morale of the team. I really liked him. So the Saints, you got a good one in him. Treat him right. And the Lions defense, even though it was bad last year with their cornerbacks, they've signed a few guys to help amend that. So I definitely see the Lions defense getting a little bit better. But the Lions as a whole team, undisputed best team in the North, they're finishing at number one. I don't need to go into too much analysis why. I think everyone knows. Anyway, that's how I see the NFC North shaking out. The Vikings at 4, the Bears at 3, the Packers at 2, and the Lions at 1. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Feel free to pick your order of how you think the division will finish in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video and have a good day. See you next time.